You know how in the United States we've all been kind of joking that we need to do the election again. We weren't ready the first time, and basically that all the candidates we had were shit, and all the candidates that should have run, basically none of them even bothered to run. Well, the Austrian, I apologize, court forced another presidential election because the last one just didn't go well. Didn't just not go well. The candidates in question and the parties in question all came down to a less than 1% difference in who should run. So the Austrian court, probably the Supreme Court of the country, whatever jurisdiction name they use, forced a new presidential election. That's why I meant the Austrian court forces presidential rerun, or presidential election rerun. This is absolutely true, folks. This is not in any way conspiracy. This is how you get a country to do a new presidential election when the news or whatever you want to call it, Austrian court overturns presidential election results, calls for rerun. The ruling handed the Freedom Party narrowly defeated candidate another chance to become the first far-right head of state in the European Union. So even though it doesn't read well, that's the idea. Their court overturned the presidential election. They said, nope, sorry, it won't happen here. So basically they needed something to kind of help them when the U.S. election happens. So they jury-rigged the Austrian court, oddly enough. Sorry, folks, this is actually happening in the world that we live in. We weren't told about this because the bankers are rigging it so they can do this in the United States. The only difference is Obama will stay in office instead of us going again. The Austrian court overturns presidential election results and calls for basically another election. Now, I don't know exactly how much of a new election they are going to go with. I don't know if they're going to start from scratch with new candidates. I don't know if they're just going to go with another actual election where the two people have the people vote for them. So let's find out together. Austrian court overturns presidential election results, calls for rerun. In Vienna on July 1, 2016, ladies and gentlemen, so this is new, this is pretty good, ready? Austria's presidential runoff election must be held again. The Constitutional Court ruled on Friday, handing the Freedom Party's narrowly defeated candidate another chance to become the first far-right head of state in the European Union. The verdict comes a week after Britain's anti-EU groups, including the Freedom Party FPO, by voting to leave the bloc. You guys all heard about that. Alright, so basically, Norbert Hofer of the anti-immigration FPO lost on May 22 to former Greens leader Alexander Van der Bellen by less than 1% percentage point, or around 31,000 votes in the race for what is largely a ceremonial position. Now, remember, they're calling their highest court, or what I believe to be their highest court, a constitutional court. Their constitutional court found more than twice that number of postal ballots had been affected by breaches of electoral code. Remember, in the United States, the Supreme Court wouldn't even get those documents. That's how jury-rigged our system is. In Austria, they already have it. And basically they said it's absolutely clear, the Constitutional Court, that laws governing an election must be applied rigorously. The court's 14 judges said their ruling on a challenge brought by FPO leader Heinz Christian Strach. The rerun will open and reopen a debate that split Austria almost evenly, pitting town against county and blue-collar workers worried about immigration and falling living standards against the more highly educated. Yeah, right. Witnesses told the court of various irregularities in the way postal ballots were counted. These included ballots becoming processed before the officially ordered start morning after the election, and counts being carried out in the absence of party observers, often because officials were racing to provide a result quickly. Yeah, right. The court found no proof that the result had been manipulated. By the possibility that the outcome might have been affected is enough for a challenge to succeed. The irregularities that have come to light after dismayed the Austrian public. There was sloppiness. Austrian Interior Minister Wolfgang Subtka, whose ministry oversees election, was accused by several witnesses of applying pressure on officials to provide a rapid count. And basically, the government must now choose a date for a new election. Basically claiming that the Brexit kind of helped spiff this up and everything else. We all know it didn't, but that's what they're going to kind of do. So if somebody comes to you, ladies and gentlemen, and says, hey, the American 2016 election is going to come down to a few votes, and there is no way internationally to break it up or to restart the election, go bullshit. Austria just frickin' did it. The bankers rigged the election in Austria so they knew how to do it when it came down to the American election in 2016. And the Austrian Constitutional Court decided not to keep the guy in power, and I'm not even going to care about who the guy was that was in power. Not because I'm an American, it doesn't matter. One, I don't think that document I just showed you listed it. And two, being the bigger one, it doesn't concern me what the person's name was. And my point is, when they tell you that the only other option, ladies and gentlemen, that makes sense is to keep Barack Hussein Obama in power, you tell them, look, the Constitutional Court in Austria just had the same issue March 22 through July 1 of 2016. They decided in their country, with 31,000 undecided votes in between that tallied up to 1 or less than 1% difference, that it was decided to not allow the last guy to keep his power, but to rerun the presidential election. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will not be the American vote. The American vote will be to keep Barack Hussein Obama in power, even though we know that they have that David French guy lined up. So, this is true, folks. They did it in one country, so they know how to do it in America. Thank you.